Katie.
You're gonna listen to these
A
stories all
split. He
day.
took a green crayon and scribbled all over the page, all green. The whole page was green. And then in the lower right-hand corner was this tiny little pencil stick figure. And he brought it home to show us. I said, Mark, what is this? He said, that's the good humor, man. Being overcome by a tidal wave.
That's true.
That is true.
And I saved the picture, I have it at home. And when he gets to be worth $5 million, I'm gonna blackmail him.
What are you doing?
It's the only girl.
Alright, now I got one. Alright, Brian, you wanna go?
No, go ahead, you're on a roll.
We had on our property, we had lime trees, lemon trees, we had a banana tree,
And a
we had
big iron
a pineapple bush right next to the pool, and a big iron fence in front of the house. And every day these cows would come down around the road and would come into our yard and would just wander around. And the maid would go out, and the cook would go out and shoo them up the street.
She wouldn't shoo them,
Alright,
Gene.
go ahead.
She came out with that whip and would whip them.
Yeah.
I was 5 years old. Hold on.
And she would push them out of the driveway and close the
One
gate.
day,
Hold on.
And she would close the gate so that the cows would stay outside the gate.
But James is nowhere to be found. James has already gone
On the other
halfway
side
down
of the
the
fence
road.
thinking, this is gonna be
And
good.
he's back in the...
And everybody was yelling.
Wait, he was
No,
back
my
in the
mom was
house.
screaming and
The
yelling.
wheels.
That's right. Well, I told him my legs turned to wheels, you know, like they do in the cartoons. So, but I can't run anywhere because the iron gate is right here. So I
get
stood,
out the camera.
I start yelling, ah! And everybody comes running up and they start yelling, take a picture! Take a picture! So as I start running, here comes this bull. Boom, 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 boom. And as I said to Gene, my legs, you know in the cartoons, when your legs become wheels? That's what happened.
And I was running on the inside of the fence to get to the gate to get out, to get him. And I am screaming. And
That's downstairs and I can't find it anywhere. Moody! I ate red poison! And she was laughing. I said, it's not funny! I ate it, oh my god, I'm gonna die! It's not funny! And she couldn't stop laughing. The more I cried, the more she laughed. And finally, and I'm crying, get it out! I'm jumping up and down. And she said, it was a Butterfinger, and don't you ever eat my Butterfinger again. And she went back to the kitchen.
I said, well, what are you gonna do about painting it? And Anna Grace said, well, we're not gonna paint it, we're gonna stain it. And we said, well, how are you gonna decorate it? She said, we're not just gonna decorate it, we're not gonna decorate it, we're just gonna stain it the same color it is.
I'm wearing
Well, I was in
yours.
first grade and I was in kindergarten.
I'm wearing
And she calls me one day and says,
Should I go home?
get a box of crayons. And we go downstairs and Siobhan says, we'll start at the first panel and I'm going to write the capital letter and you write the small one. And we walked all across the whole basement, 26 panels. Siobhan writing a big capital A and then a capital B crayon and I wrote the small one.
Is this a daycare center?
And Nana Grace came down and she didn't like the decorating job. We did too much.
No, she didn't like the small case letters.
So they got it framed, and for 20 years you could see our crayon on the basement wall. And then another time, they got a brand new fence out in the backyard. It was just like a half fence next to the garage. And we said, well, when are we going to paint this fence? And I think she decided to actually
She
paint
would
that.
wind up at that.
We were going to paint that, and Grace had brought a gallon can of white paint, and she had the brushes there too. And it's just that she had no time with 7 kids to get into do the painting there. So Brian decided that he was going to help.
I was 3, so we're a little south of 7 kids, Dad.
He was about 5.
no, he was about 3, Jim.
He was?
Yes.
4. And he walked, Brian walked in and thought he'll be the decorator. He pried open the top of the paint can poured the paint all over the floor. Grace walked in, you tell the story from there, honey.
I couldn't get the paint back into the can, and we had like linoleum on the floor, so I couldn't get the paint back into the can, and I decided, well, obviously the only thing to do is to grab the roller and start painting now. So I grabbed the roller and I started
Found the
painting.
time.
I was painting the walls as fast as I could before the paint dried on the floor, and I painted and painted and painted, and I guess I was in there for about 45 minutes or something. And I came out semi-exhausted because I was painting as fast as I could. And I came out and I found Brian, standing on a chair with like almost a gallon jar of grape jelly, because I used to buy the very big jars. So he's holding about this half gallon maybe of grape jelly, and he's got a paintbrush, and he is just finishing off the refrigerator, which is just about totally covered in grape jelly. And he's on a chair because he's done the entire lower half, and he's just finishing off a few strokes up near the top.
I heard that's how Michelangelo got started.
I couldn't believe it. It was at that point I decided this kid is going to see a doctor because this can't be normal.
They would come around to the back of the house and there was a little steel box that opened up and he would put a 6-pack of milk in there. But he usually put like 2 milks and a cream or something like that. Usually we got 3 of them. And then in the summertime, he would come by one day in the beginning of the summer, and inside the milk box would be 2 milks, 1 cream, and a package of freeze pops. And the freeze pops were a sample. And if we wanted them, we would keep them. And if we didn't want them, we would leave them in the milk box, and he would take them away. So we kids could hardly ever get out of bed before 8 o'clock in the morning. But in the summer, when the milkman would come, we were out of bed in a heartbeat, waiting for him to come.
What happened to him?
And the milkman came and dropped them off, and we kids took them and ran them downstairs to the basement freezer and put them in the freezer without telling my mom so that we could eat them later that night. Then to get more, you had to put the empty bag into the milk crate. So we would take the empty bag and put it in the milk crate without my mom seeing it, and then we would get another bag and we'd eat more of it. But that's where the problem with no honor among thieves comes in. Because more and more of my brothers and sister would eat them before they were fully frozen, so that nobody else could get them. And then one day I found Brian laying underneath the bar with warm freeze pops, sucking them dry as quickly as he could because he didn't have time for them to get frozen.
You know?
And that led on to other things, like whenever we had pizza, when there was leftover pizza, my mom would put it in the refrigerator. But it didn't last through the night because we knew that somebody would get it in the morning. And so Siobhan would take pieces of pizza and curl them up and wrap them in aluminum foil and put them in the vegetable drawer so that we would think they were vegetables.
Wait. You remember in the freezer, if you had candy or you had ice cream, and like I said, if you ever wanted to save it, you couldn't put it in the freezer because it was gone. So then what we figured out was, okay, maybe if I put it in the corner, but you'd see somebody walking around with an ice cream and you knew that they hid it somewhere. So when no one's around, you'd go in, you'd check the freezer, and sure enough, you'd figure it out, you'd put your hand all in the corner, and it was jackpot. You'd pull it out and you'd eat it. It doesn't matter that it was somebody else's, and you would eat it.
Or you could do what James did and write your name all over it. Like that's gonna
Wait. Until Siobhan, and this is amazing, because it took us a while to figure this out, and you couldn't find it. But sure enough, there's an hour later, there's Siobhan walking around with a candy or an ice cream, and we're looking at each other saying, this doesn't make sense. We checked the whole freezer.
We sent our spies out and we caught on to that.
No.
You know, my sister
You
Noel
guys
because
remember-
Dennis told the story about my sister Noel that my mother would buy these half gallons of ice cream, the bricks, and Noel was the worst sneak in the world. She used to cut a slice off one egg, and then she'd eat the entire interior of it. And then she'd put the slice back on it, get a warm knife, and just smooth it all out. And Dennis said, for years he thought it came like that, with a cave.
No, with Noel, she had perfected the ability to take her nail and hollow out the bottom of chocolates. When you had a Whitman sampler or any kind of assortment, we kids, it was pick one, and you invariably picked it, and it was a coffee or one of those cream caramels that you didn't like. But Noelle showed me how she would take her finger and she would do a full circle on the bottom, pluck out the chocolate and go, oh, bad one, and put it back in, and nobody knew that it was still, that she had already investigated them.
Maddie, let's see a smile. Cheese. There's Gene the troublemaker.
Alright, and it was pitch black.
Tommy boy.
Mark and I were what?
How you doing, bud? Yay.
Look at me, look at me.
Jimmy. Andrew.
Mommy,
Look at you.
mommy.
Greg's a big competitor. Hey, Jimmy. How you doing? There's Kelly and Maggie. And Grace. Uh-oh, the shark is here. Here comes the shark.
Is this Pop's invention?
Shark. Shark.